Good afternoon, everybody. I see there's still some more people joining us, but it's already 6 minutes past 6, so I think we should start already. And if anybody joins later, well, the webinar will be taped, will be recorded, and as the previous two webinars, you will have the recording tomorrow available on the Canvas platform to check it if you missed the beginning. So. Without waiting for any longer, I would like to welcome everybody to this third webinar of the Virtuous Massive Open Online course, Promoting Ocean Literacy and Project-Based Learning by Monitoring Biodiversity. So first of all, I would like to introduce you to today's presenters. We have Tecla Maggioni. She's a biologist.
Hello.
With a master's degree in oceanography from the University of Barcelona. And we also have today Juanita Zorrilla. She is a biologist and she has a PhD in environmental education. She has taken part in many projects related to ocean literacy and environmental education. They are both from Submon, one of the partners of the Virtuous project. And today they're going to talk about ocean literacy and why we think it's so important to bring it into your classrooms. So before we start, I would like to remind everybody that your microphones are on mute by default. The video is off already also by default. So if you have any questions about today's webinar, we invite you to post all the questions or comments in the discussion forum of Module 3 on the Canvas platform. In that forum, you can interact with the teachers, with the rest of participants, and all the presenters today will have more time to take the time and answer your questions tomorrow or the day after. You will be able to discuss in the discussion area. So with this, I leave you with Tecla. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mariluz. So today, let me just put it in the presentation mode. Now, I think you can see it. Okay, so today we will give you a general overview about ocean literacy and how Virtuous project can be a useful tool to bring it to the classroom. This is the outline of today's presentation. We will discuss what is ocean literacy and how this concept was developed to time and space. We would talk also about the ocean literacy framework and its 7 essential principles and how some of them can be introduced implementing Virtuous project. Then my colleague Juanita will give you an overview of the barriers in ocean literacy, as well as giving you some examples of activities and projects of ocean literacy and citizen science all over the world. So let's start with a simple question. What is ocean literacy? Many of you may have heard it before. Many are hearing it for the first time. An international agreed definition states that ocean literacy is understanding the ocean influence on you and your influence on the ocean. This definition comes from the technical report Science Content and Stardom for Ocean Literacy, published in November 2005 by Francesca Cava et al. I would like to stress out that ocean literacy is not just referred to knowledge and education, but it also aims at engaging people in acting on behalf of the ocean. So where does this concept come from? Ocean literacy started as a movement in the United States. A group of scientists and educators noticed there was very little references to ocean sciences in school and educational curricula, so they wanted to overcome this lack. And in 2002, the first online conference, Ocean for Life, was held online by the College of Exploration and National Geographic Society. In 2004, a virtual workshop was organized among ocean science and education communities, and they agreed on the ocean literacy definition, as well as the ocean concepts and an alignment matrix to promote the ocean literacy. And thanks to the efforts of science community and education community through those years, the ocean literacy framework was finally made available for public consultation in 2010. European nations also showed an interest in taking part to this movement. And in 2012, there was the first ocean literacy conference that was celebrated in Belgium. The next year, in 2013, an alliance among Canada, Europe, and USA was born with the aim to enhance a collaboration on ocean research in the Atlantic, making ocean literacy a priority in their agenda. An important step was the year 2015. In this year, two European-funded projects was launched, Sea Change and Responsible, with the aim to study the citizen relationship with the sea and to empower them to take direct and sustainable actions toward a healthy ocean and also healthy communities. And Juanita will talk about it later in the last part of the presentation. In 2006 was held the first Global Ocean Science Workshop at UNESCO offices in Paris. And in 2017, the International Conference at UNESCO office was the one that leads to one of the most important publications, that is Ocean Literacy for All, a toolkit that was published in 2018. And you can go check out on Canvas platform this document. You will find a direct link to download this document published by UNESCO in different languages. And many regional movements on ocean literacy are becoming important, and more projects to enhance collaboration and the spread of ocean literacy worldwide are expected in the next year. This is because ocean literacy is an essential component to provide knowledge, legal certainty, and security for the blue economy that encourages a better stewardship of our ocean and blue resources. Ocean literacy, in fact, fits in the framework of the blue growth, which is the long-term strategy to support sustainable growth in the marine and maritime sector as a whole. Blue growth strategies is included in the European Horizon 2020 agenda, and also at global level is listed as part of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This is why ocean literacy is so important. In fact, most citizens and also policymakers are not aware to full extent of the economic and social and political environmental importance of the ocean. This is why ocean literacy can be an instrument to counter this ocean blindness. The idea is to shape a society more ocean-oriented in the future. Also, ocean literacy can guide the society in the change on the way we act or in the way we think. Also, it aims at filling the gaps in formal education regarding the ocean. And for new generation, there is a need to emphasize the importance of the emerging careers linked to the ocean. Also, policymakers need to become more ocean literate to make decisions that support the blue economy in the future. This is why you, as teacher and educator, would think that you play an important role in shaping the future adults. And this is why we feel that it is important that you become familiar with the concepts of ocean literacy to move from the knowledge to the action. So let's see what are the features that characterize an ocean literate person. As you may have seen in the introductory video of Module 3, on an ocean literate person understands the importance of the ocean to humankind, then he's able to communicate about the ocean in a meaningful way and is able to make informed and responsible decisions regarding the ocean and its resources. And here lies the essence of ocean literacy. So not just knowledge, but also action. The ocean literacy principles are made of a framework that are based on 7 principles. And now in the next following slide, I will show you what are those principles. And probably I will bombard you with a lot of information and a lot of concepts. I don't want you to retain everything that I'm saying, but just to grasp the essential role that the ocean plays for us and our influence on the ocean. In fact, you can always go to Canvas platform where you can find a summary of the principles, and you can read a more extensive description of them also in the UNESCO toolkit or in the National Marine Educator Association website. So let's start with principle number 1 that states that the Earth has one big ocean with many features. In fact, if we were aliens approaching the planet Earth, let's imagine that, we would think that it is a blue planet because as you can see here in this picture, the ocean is the defining feature of our planet. In fact, it covers a major part of the surface, approximately 70% of its surface, and oceanographers recognize different basins, namely the Atlantic, the Arctic, the Antarctic, the Pacific, and the Indian Ocean. But as you will see on a map, they are all interconnected. So there is actually one big ocean. And the average depth of the ocean is almost 3.6 kilometers, and the deepest point is reached in the Mariana Trench at approximately 11 kilometers. And if you think that, it is curious to notice that the highest mountain on land, the Everest, is only 8.8 kilometers. And this may give us an idea of how big the ocean is. Throughout the ocean, there is one interconnected circulation system that is powered by winds, tides, the force of the Earth rotation, and also water density differences. And the shape of ocean basins and adjacent land masses influence the path of this circulation. Most of the Earth water is found in the ocean, approximately 97% of it, and contains a constant proportion of dissolved salts, approximately 35 grams of salt per liter. The ocean is an integral part of the water cycle and is connected to the Earth water reservoirs by evaporation and precipitation processes. It shouldn't surprise you the fact that the water that rains on land originally came from the tropical ocean, where the evaporation rate is high. And as is written here, although the ocean may seem huge, it is finite, so its resources are limited. And this is why we need to manage them carefully. So we need to plan a management of the resources. To go on with principle 2, the ocean and life in the ocean shapes the future on Earth. So coastlines are constantly shaped by the ocean waves, the currents, and also the sea level changes. Sea level changes over time have expanded and contracted the continental shelves, and also they have created and destroyed inland seas as well as shaped the surface of land. Furthermore, many of the sedimentary rocks that are now exposed on land were formed originally in the ocean. In fact, due to the tectonic movements of the Earth crust, the sedimentary rocks can be uplifted and they become exposed as part of the continents. An example of that, if you think, are the Italian Dolomites. I don't know if you are familiar with the Italian Dolomites. So the peaks were made from remains of an ancient coral reef, still surrounded by marine sediments of an ancient ocean basis, the Tethys Sea. So 1,000 meters below the tops of the Dolomites was the sea bottom, rich with marine life. And this is why it is not weird to find rocks with marine fossils as the one here in the picture, while trekking in the mountains. So you shouldn't be surprised to find sedimentary rocks or marine fossils in the mountains. And across geological areas, the slow and continuous movement of the seawater, together with the erosion of land and the redistribution of sand and sediments, worked to create the landscape that we have now. To go on with principle 3, the ocean is a major influence on weather and climate. So the ocean moderates the global weather and climate by absorbing most of the solar radiation reaching the Earth. The ocean currents redistribute heat around the globe in the so-called Great Ocean Conveyor Belt, and here we have an illustration of that. This motion is caused by a combination of surface and deep current, and thanks to this circulation, a significant amount of heat from the equator, so from the equator regions, is transferred to the poles, regulating the climate. So from the equatorial region, the heat is transferred to the North Pole and to the South Pole, regulating the climate worldwide. So it exchanges between the ocean and atmosphere drives the water cycle, and it can result in dramatic global and regional weather phenomena such as El Niño Southern Oscillation that create profound impacts on patterns of rain and drought in the Pacific. Not only heat is exchanged between ocean and atmosphere, in fact, in a global sense, the ocean continually exchanges also carbon dioxide. The ocean is a key element of the global systems, but for many years, the ocean processes had been relatively absent from the discussion on climate change. So now that we know that the ocean has an important and a vital role in absorbing the carbon dioxide and regulating the climate, we should think about it. So we should stress this important role that the ocean has on the weather and climate. And I suggest you to watch on Canvas this video that summarize some of the concepts that I'm talking about. And has for these principles, we posted other videos of the same collection developed by Sophie Project. And I think you can use them as an important tool or a captivating way to introduce the concepts about the ocean to your classroom. So I invite you to have a look at this video on Canvas platform. Talking about principle 4, the ocean makes the Earth habitable. It was investigated a lot about where and when the life first originates. Some of the research on the origin of life has been conducted by looking for life in extreme environments. So where life thrives without relying on the sun as an energy resources. And actually the first evidence, so the earliest evidence of unicellular organisms dates back to the Archean, so almost 2.5 billion years ago, in extreme environments such as the deep ocean. The ocean is not only where the life is thought to originate, but it also generates much of the oxygen that is required by many of the Earth's organisms. So most of the oxygen in the atmosphere originally comes from the activities of photosynthetic organisms in the ocean. And it is confirmed that the ocean produces from 50 to 80% of the oxygen found in the atmosphere. And we can think about it if we simulate the breaths. So it's like the oxygen of 2 out of 3 breaths we take is provided by the ocean. So the ocean is essential for life on Earth because provided and continue to provide water, oxygen, and nutrients. And also, as we said before, it moderates the climate needed for life to exist on Earth. So if we go on with principle number 5, the ocean supports a great diversity of life and ecosystems. I would like to make you a question. Do you know what is the largest animal that have ever lived on Earth? Maybe some of you are thinking about dinosaurs or mammoth, but actually the answer is the blue whales. So ocean life ranges in size from the smallest living things, the microbes, to the largest animal that has lived on Earth. This is so impressive for me. And most of the major groups that exist on Earth are found exclusively in the ocean, and the diversity of major group of organisms is much greater in the ocean than on land. Also, in marine organisms, there are examples of life cycles, adaptations, and important relationship among organisms. So for instance, we can think about symbiosis or predator-prey dynamics that do not occur on land. Also, the ocean provides a vast living space, and there are diverse and unique ecosystems from the surface to the water column and down to below to the seafloor. So those ecosystems are defined by abiotic factors, such as the light or the salinity or the temperature, and biotic factors, so the living part of the environment, so the communities of organisms that live there and the relationships that are created among the organisms. And a few regions of the ocean support the most abundant life on Earth. For instance, we can think about the Great Barrier Reef. So the life in the ocean is concentrated in some hotspot of biodiversity. And marine ecosystems can rely upon different type of energy. So for instance, we have in the well-lit waters, in the upper waters, ecosystems that rely upon the sunlight and photosynthetic organisms. But also we have examples of deep water ecosystems, such as the hydrothermal vents, where life relies upon chemical energy and chemosynthetic organisms to support this life. So we might think that in the deep, cold, and dark ocean, there is no life, but nothing is more wrong. And also, I suggest you to watch this video called "The Ocean is Everybody's Home" that you can find on Canvas. To go on with Principle 6, the ocean and humans are inextricably interconnected. The ocean affects every human life, not only of those living in coastal areas. From the ocean, we get food, medicines, minerals, and energy resources. And if we think about it, the ocean provides also jobs and supports our nation's economies, and also serves as a highway for transportation of goods and people. And it also plays a role in the national security. The ocean also is a source of inspiration, recreation, rejuvenation, and discovery, and is also an important element for our cultural heritage. So I'm sure you can name one famous book or a famous song that is inspired by the ocean. Also, did you know that there are at least 40 recreational activities that can be done in the water, on the water, or under the water of the ocean? I was extremely impressed by such numbers. Also, much of the world population lives in coastal areas. In fact, more than 600 million people live in coastal areas that are less than 10 meters above the sea level. And nearly 2.4 billion people live within 100 kilometers from the coast. So the relation between humans and the ocean is really evident. But as humans, we are affecting the ocean in a variety of ways, and we are threatening the ocean and its resources. We can think, for instance, at regulating coastal development or pollution that are leading to habitat degradation and also to endangerment of marine species. And we can think also about the fishing activities. Humans have removed most of the large vertebrates from the ocean, either directly or by harvesting their prey. So everyone is responsible for caring for the ocean. The ocean sustains life on Earth, offering free services, and humans must live in a way that sustain the ocean, and also individual and collective actions are needed to effectively manage ocean resources for all. And we go now to the last principle, which is Principle 7, the ocean is largely unexplored. Apparently, we better know the moon than the seafloor. we have mapped all the seafloor, but with poor quality images. And this is, of course, due to the extreme environment condition that we find in the ocean. So we required further technologies to be developed. And the ocean is the last and largest unexplored place on Earth. And this is a great frontier for the next generation explorers and researchers. In fact, understanding the ocean is more than a matter of curiosity. Exploration, inquiry, and study are required to better understand ocean systems and processes. Because if you think about it, our very survival may hinge upon it. And also, over the last 40 years, the use of ocean resources has increased significantly. Therefore, the future sustainability of the ocean resources depends on our understanding of those resources and our management plans. So if we think about it, the ocean exploration is not only a matter of scientists, but is truly interdisciplinary. So it requires a close collaboration among different scientific, but also social branches, and also new ways of thinking. So I'm sorry if I gave you a huge amount of information to process. I know I'm aware of it, but I tried to condense all the principles and the key concepts in this presentation. And now that we have had an overview of the contents of the 7 essential principles of OHEL, I would like to invite you to take a look at the National Marine Educator Association website. You can find here the website, but also you can find a direct link on Canvas platform. And there you can download a conceptual full diagram for each essential principles of ocean literacy. I think this is an amazing instructional tool for you educators and teachers, because it shows how you can help learners to build their understanding of the 7 ocean literacy principles. So you can find suggestions on how to deal with the concepts with different level of complexity. This is made according to the American education system, K-12, meaning from little kids from 4 or 5 years old to the teenagers. So there we find all the concepts that the students or the kids should know about the ocean at his or her age. So if you click, for instance, on a specific target of age, in this case, I click on 3-5K, you will see a diagram that represents the context of the principles selected. So for instance, here we have one branch topic, which is the properties of ocean water. There are indication of major concepts of this branch. So for instance, that 97% of all water on Earth is salt water in the ocean. And also you can find ideas that support the bigger ideas of this branch. And if you go through all the diagram, you will find also some suggestion about a path of learning. So you can find also how the concepts can be connected with other principles. Basically, it works as a scaffold, like a structure of the ocean knowledge, and it is ready to use by teachers and education. That's why I would like you to find out this resource and to check it out. So at this stage of the massive open online course, you should have a general idea of what is Virtuous project and how to implement it to study biodiversity in your class. Now I would like to discuss with you how some of the principles and concepts of ocean literacy can be introduced while working with Virtuous Disc. So let's start with principle 1. So when introducing the Virtuous project, you can address some of the properties of seawater where this will be deployed. Actually, we encourage our students to take measurement of salinity or temperature or pH or nutrient contents of the seawater when they are deploying or retrieving the disc, but also during the time that the disc are deployed. And in this case, they can understand the physical and chemical properties of seawater. Also, youngsters can learn some geographic and geological feature and information about the areas where they are deploying the disks while they're conducting the investigation. And one of the concepts contained in Principle 1 is the water movement. So starting from the observation of larvae that you can find on the disk, you can introduce the idea and the concepts about larvae dispersals by ocean currents, and also convey the idea that moving ocean waters can transport living things from one location to another. So not only the water is moving, but also living organisms that are contained in the water are moved. Also about Principle 2, the ocean and life in the ocean shape the future on Earth. One of the basic concepts here are the carbon cycles. And on Virtuous Disk, we find many organisms with a carbonate shell or skeleton. So teachers and educators have the perfect ingredients to introduce the biomineralization process as part of the carbon cycle. So carbon dioxide in the atmosphere enters the ocean by diffusion and convective mixing. Carbon is present in the ocean as dissolved inorganic ions, and those inorganic ions can be used by many organisms to form calcium carbonate shells and other skeletal parts. And some of the calcium carbonate from shells can also accumulate to form sedimentary rocks and uplift and accretion process, as well as we discussed before, the sea level changes may relocate the sedimentary rocks on land. So by observing Virtuous Disk, students can identify some of those calcifying organisms, such as here we have an example of barnacles or mussels or red dwarfs that create a structure of calcium carbonate. About Principle 5, one of the main goals of Virtuous Project is monitoring the amazing marine biodiversity. And this is a key concept of Principle 5. So one of the most engaging activities for youngsters that are engaged in Virtuous Project is the identification of species. So they can learn that life underwater is really diverse. While recognizing species that have colonized Virtuous Disk, students can learn important ecological and biological features of marine organisms. So they can, for instance, investigate the feeding strategies or the life cycles or the reproductive strategies. So the students can develop a genuine curiosity towards marine organisms and marine biodiversity. So they will be able to observe the life under the stereoscope, and this is sometimes, it is sometimes even difficult to take away students from the stereoscope because they are mesmerized by the life under the lenses, and the fact that they can observe it with their eyes is way much better than watching a picture on the books. So Virtuous Project is a really important tool to monitor the amazing marine biodiversity, but in that case, students can learn a lot of the marine biodiversity that the ocean houses. Also, experimenting with biofouling in different environments, water, depths, or location can help students to discover how the environmental factors affect species distribution in the sea, and how the environmental factors also impact influence the environment in the sea and the environment distribution also. So for instance, with Virtuous Disk, you can investigate which species prefer to live in well-lit upper waters. So maybe the upper part of the disks, or which species prefer to colonize substrates in shadow. So maybe the other side of the disk, or some organisms that grow on the lower part of the Virtuous rack. And you can also compare biofouling under different environmental conditions. So maybe you can choose to compare the biofouling in 2 or 3 different locations that you can select according to the aim of your investigation. So for instance, you can decide to deploy the discs in 2 different locations, maybe one more exposed to the waves and the other less exposed to the waves, or maybe into different locations that present eutrophic or oligotrophic waters, meaning the amount of nutrients that is present in the waters. But also you can perform experiments in locations that present different salinity values. So undertaking investigation in such different sites, the students can investigate which species thrive and develop adaptation to live in such conditions, and how a specific variable, a specific environmental variable can affect the biodiversity of the fouling community. And one of the strengths of Virtuous Project is that we encourage the exchange of observation within the network of partners that are located all around the world. Actually, now I think we have members in 24 countries, if I'm not wrong, and I hope that you will become sooner a member of Virtuous Project as well. So in different locations, the discs are colonized by different species. So collaborating with members from other geographic areas, this could be an opportunity to learn about the different biodiversity that the disc presents. So it will be an opportunity for students to learn also about the biodiversity in different geographic areas, not only near their houses, not only near their schools or educational centers. And Virtuous Project is not only about knowledge and about education, but it is also about emotions. So youngsters can empathize with the ocean, discovering its importance in our daily life while monitoring biodiversity. Also, there is an activity that can be undertaken with Virtuous Disc, that is the investigation of the presence of microplastic in the fouling, and we will talk about it in the next webinar. So students can also investigate what are the relationship between humans and the ocean. In that case, a bad relationship, because we are contaminating our seas, and the students can watch and can detect microplastics in the biofouling of the Virtuous Disc. So to finish with the principle 7, the ocean is largely unexplored. I think one of the strengths of Virtuous Project is this investigative approach. So fouling experiment, such as those proposed by this project, are actively used also in real scientific research. So fouling experiments on PVC plates or discs have several applications, as was explained by Sally in her webinar last week. So for instance, it can be used for monitoring studies, or to test anti-fouling agents, or to undertake research on invasive species, or to determine the effects of change in communities due to the pollution or to climate change. So youngsters will be somehow working as real scientists. So Virtuous Project can be a first approach to scientific investigation. So they will learn how to settle the experiments, to conduct the analysis, and to share the results with their peers. So I think I can now leave the floor to my colleague Juanita for the second part of the presentation, and I will see you at the end of the presentation. So let me just give Juanita the permission to continue with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Tekla.
Okay.
Okay, I will continue. with the ocean literacy, and more into examples and real life also projects that have been carried out with ocean literacy as a core topic. Okay, there was the Sea Change project, and it was an important issue to take into account. So what are the barriers to teach 12 and 19 years old, from 12 to 19 years old, about the ocean? Because sometimes we just develop resources, but sometimes it's necessary to ask before the question. So this way we can develop better resources. Okay, so this was a project from the Sea Change. It was European funded, where several countries from the European Union participate to elaborate and to know which were the barriers for teaching the 12 to 19-year-old about the ocean. This was a participative process in which the participate researchers, stakeholders, people from public administration and NGOs. So we could go beyond this and try to search which were also knowing the barriers to know better which resources to develop. So taking the Spanish case, we have developed a lot and collect a lot of barriers from this participative process, and we develop a aggravating map. So if you see, there is the most aggravating on your left screen, the left part of your screen, the most aggravating, and the less aggravating barriers on your right side of the screen. We're going to focus on the most aggravating barriers. And we found in Spain that there was no institutional promotion or experimental education policy. And also the lack of training for teachers to transmit accurate knowledge in engaging ways, and also lack of resources. So this was very, very interesting for the Virtuous project, because it really fits into to give solution to these barriers. It's good to have this theoretical proof of why it's needed project like Virtuous for ocean literacy. I'm going to focus more on, as I previously said, on ocean literacy in action, in order to relate principles to practical activities, and also to have outcomes, provide specific training for teachers to transmit ocean literacy in an attractive format. And it's important to develop specific practical resources and learning opportunities for ocean literacy, foster exchange of best practices in ocean literacy with other people. And now we have technologies that allow this. It's very recommended, and the Virtuous project also fits into this line. And ongoing activities that share the ocean literacy principles from local, regional, and national global perspective. Okay. I'm going to show you some examples. There are many ways there are so many resources online, but I'm going to show you some, like some of the most important, or the ones that have more time working. So this is a case study from Portugal. It's the case of the Blue Schools of Portugal. Sea Change also work to have like a protocol and some baseline to set up the Blue Schools program in Europe. And I think it's still a project. It's in its infancy, but we're going to take Portugal's case because it's more advanced and they have developed more resources, and it's a project important to take into account. Okay, in Portugal, a Blue School, it's not just a school that have its curriculum. with ocean and sea topics, but also engages the school community as a long-term program in understanding the ocean and its influence on our lives, while not forgetting our own impact on the ocean. It articulates all its action and activities with local community and different players of the sea. This is very important because it just takes, being Portugal, a country that has a long coast, the interaction with the ocean is very important. So community is also involved in this educational practice. And this is not just a win for the education, but it's also a win-win relationship as a social topic. There are some of the topics. Oh, sorry. Some of the topics that the Blue School has on its curriculum. There are so many. I'm going to just give 5 cents of this, and it's the marine debris, marine biodiversity, coastal tourism, marine pollution, sea mapping, ocean health, technology, climate change, ocean monitoring, acidification of the ocean. So there are so many. Here we have some samples, but you can see that many topics that we treat in land, it's also possible to have them and look at them from the ocean perspective. There are so many examples that we can translate the same topic from land into the ocean. So this is what these Blue Schools have done. And there is another case from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration from the United States that really that treats ocean. It's an international ocean science and cultural exchange program created to inspire through the events of the 11th of September. This program brings together high school students of different backgrounds to foster cross-cultural relationships and explore the marine science, and also to foster the stewardship of the ocean. There is a hard selection for the students to participate in this program, and they work or they go for this experience into marine sanctuaries, like acting as living classroom. They discover how the oceans connects with all of us, and how by connecting to the ocean, they enrich their lives as well. This is a very interesting program that also makes like a living, I think the idea of living laboratories of some protected areas or sanctuaries is very important to give this additional educational but practical perspective. Another project that was very interesting, it was done by Submon in Spain. It's a message in a bottle. It also links with the number 6 principle about how the humans are inextricably interconnected. And this campaign challenged people to change the direction with the ocean, no matter where they were. This was an initiative for the Oceans Day on 2017, and there were 6 bottles that traveled 6 different routes throughout Spain. Each route covered coastal and inland areas, raising awareness on the effects of our actions, no matter where they were. There was just not coastline. A project, but it was also a project that worked on inland, like an interior ocean. At first, there were just 50 participants, but in total, more than 10,000 people were involved with more than 110 activities. These bottles travel more than 8,500 kilometers. And the message was that one person cannot save the planet, but together we can. There are some other activities examples. Here you have them in Spanish, but you can look, there are so many examples on internet about lessons plans, all related with ocean topics, like marine forests, like our relation, for example, with the fishing industry. And also now that it's very common, the use of apps, this is also an app to introduce little ones into the world of marine science. There is not just like for 12 until 19 years old. We also have to start, we can start ocean literacy with the little ones. This app, it's very intuitive, and it's very interesting to start with vocabulary and with topics about what is the technology needed for ocean exploration. There is another kind of another example of lesson plans, and you have all the instructions to adapt it into the classroom according to the materials and all the things that you have on your lab. Another, I wanted to go ocean literacy and a step forward, and is a topic of citizen science. Probably some of you have heard of citizen science, probably some of you don't, but it's a very interesting field that has been very, with an exponential growth, in which many researchers for conservation of the ocean have introduced citizen science into their projects. There are so many different definitions to describe citizen science, but according to publication, you have it here on the bottom of the slide, how VITRES project can be considered one of the marine citizen science initiatives in Europe, where data collected by the students, it's available into a wider audience via national biodiversity networks, and strengthens the connection between education and marine research. There are different, many webs and applications to promote citizen science. This one is it's very recently launched, I think 2 months ago, about citizen science with a big live project for all the marine network 2000 here in Spain. There are different kind of citizen science projects about jellyfish, exotic fishes, invasive species, coral reefs. So it's a new proposal that also is very interesting, because it's not that our research project has started from zero to develop a citizen science project, but he has linked or joined another ongoing project. So now they are quite stronger in the data that they gather. Another interesting is CITLabs, that to see and check the visibility and all the transparency of water, with most of the citizen science that are present right now. They have all a linked application. You can download it through Google or through iOS. But well, some are exclusively from Google, but there is a lot of possibilities for applications to participate in citizen science project and engage students with some real research. There is another, the Coast Watch survey from 2019. This has also a very strict protocol, and to see all the coast, how is, well, the parameters of the coast. There are some managers in each country and responsibles, and you can check in your country if they are responsible for this Coastwatch survey. That also is related with number 6 principle of the ocean literacy. You will find all the websites of these citizen science projects in the canvas, where you can check for more information, ways to participate, or include it into your classroom. As I was telling you before, some of the applications that are more common or more used, these are just some popular applications. iNaturalist is not just marine, it's from biodiversity all over the world. That helps you to identify which are the species, plant tracker for invasive species, the water, it's for transparency, and the Coastwatch for microliter application. Now I'm going to finish where we have going through just outreach, education, more participate on research, and how ocean literacy can really go into action. This is, we have a problem with education. We just foster engagement, and we are going to check. I want you, I'm not going to show you now the whole video, but I really recommend you do it because it's a real example of how some students from Indonesia have really changed their country, or at least their island, for the conservation of the oceans. This is the case of bye-bye plastic bags. These are two sisters that really foster to stop and to beat the plastic bags into Bali, and they explain all the process of how they have achieved that, and how other cities or other towns have taken the same idea and have partnered with this idea to make this change possible. And all because of education and ocean literacy. These, I will leave you with more useful resources to check more about ocean literacy, about lessons plans, and about activities that you can do into your classroom. So, Tekla,
Okay, yeah, that's it. I think now I can retake the controls.
Okay.
Okay, and thanks for your attention. If you have any comments, or if you have any question, you can use the platform, the discussion platform in Canvas. But if you have any further issues, you can also contact us directly with our address here. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tekla, and thank you, Juanita, for your interesting presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us this afternoon and staying with us. I hope you enjoyed the talk and you thought it was useful. As I said at the beginning, please do not hesitate to post any questions you might have about today's webinar or about Module 3 in the discussion module, in the discussion forum, sorry, of Module 3 in the Canvas platform. Now the two presenters will answer any question during the next few days. I think that maybe some of your questions might be useful for the rest of the students. So please don't be shy, ask anything you want to ask there, and in the next few days they will answer. They will maybe start discussions, and it will be interesting for everybody. Now, if you arrived late, we will post the recording of this webinar in the Canvas platform again in the Module 3. So you can either watch it again, or you arrived late and you missed the beginning, you can watch it there, no problem. One thing I would like to remind everybody, at the end of each module, you need to submit an assignment that you can find again on the Canvas platform under the section assignments. Now, once you have submitted all the assignments for all the modules, you will be issued a certificate of participation in this massive open online course. So if you're interested in it, you need to submit all the assignments first. Remember that. One last thing, please save the date for the next webinar, which takes place next Thursday, 14th of May, again at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time. It will be Tekla again, and she will be talking about virtuous hands-on activities. So a really interesting session, again, very useful if you want to take everything to your classroom. So with that, I just wanted to thank you everybody again for attending today's webinars, and the presenters, Juanita and Tekla. Stay safe, everybody, take care, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.